Hey there! Welcome back to my channel. If you're watching, more than likely you are a subscriber here to US Skull Hunter. So thank you so much. I just hit 10,000 subscribers, so I wanted to do a little video, a little thank you video, and talk a little bit more about kind of what I do here and some things about myself as well. But before we get into that, I'm going to do a little montage of some of the fun times we've had together and some of my most favorite projects. So it's been 85 videos plus or minus over the past 3 years, 1.3 million views, just hit 10,000 subscribers. So huge thank you to you, and cue the montage. Okay, so what I did was I put out a little post on Facebook and here on YouTube and asked you guys if there was any questions that you wanted to ask me whatsoever. It didn't have to be about skull carving or about the channel, but just any questions you had for me. A bunch of you did ask questions, probably more than I can cover in this video, but I will cover a couple of those. Before I do that though, I do want to say a special kind of shout out, thank you to a few people. Trust me, there are plenty more, but just kind of some of the top names that pop up quite often of people who have followed me here on YouTube. Some of you from the very beginning, the awkward beginning, trust me, I'm still working on that, but just wanted to say thank you to a few people. First one being Gene Myers. Gene has been commenting since the very beginning, so huge thank you to Gene. Jimmy Buffett-Tier, Charla Van Vlack. Sorry guys, I'm not going to pronounce all of your names correctly. Matt from Cornelius Creations, he has his own YouTube channel. He follows me, he's been a big fan. He's got way more followers than me, so it's kind of nice, or it's an honor in that sense to have someone with more experience on YouTube follow me. So thank you, Matt. Dale B, appreciate you. Mike Chapman, and I think it's Jose, I'm not sure. JOSDU 30. And then Howard Cahoon? Howard, thank you for following, and all of you guys' support. I do appreciate that. So let's jump into some questions from you guys. Okay, so you guys have some really good questions, by the way, and I apologize for my squeaky chair. Logan had a really good question. They said, is skull carving and selling your skull replicas your full-time job? If not, then what is your main job? If so, how does what you're doing now compare to your dream job as a kid? Okay, skull carving and selling the replicas is not my full-time job. My full-time job is doing real estate appraisal. So I do residential appraisals. When you sell a property, you'll get an appraisal done by the bank, or when you refinance, I'll come in and appraise the property to see what the value is. Not everyone likes me. obviously. Overall, it's a decent job. I like to say it's the golden goose that lays, or the goose that lays the golden egg. So it's the moneymaker. And skull carving is just, for now, a side job. But I am trying my best to make this my full-time career. I want to get out of the real estate appraisal career, and I love skulls, I love carving, I love teaching people, so I'm trying to make an income from that, hopefully I'm working on it, but we'll see where that goes. Reaching 10,000 subscribers is kind of a part of that. Eventually I would like to get sponsorships for the YouTube channel in order to make money, so I can continue to do what I love, which is carving skulls and other stuff. And then the second part of the question was, how does what you're doing now compare to what your dream job was as a kid? I had a lot of dream jobs as a kid. When I was real little, I wanted to be a veterinarian, which probably what little kid doesn't, right? Let's see, what else did I want to do? I think I always had this image in my head. I was always very entrepreneurial as a kid. I started working full-time at age 11, okay? Yes, I actually did. I did do that illegally. I was in a 4-H group. Yeah, anyhow, different topic for a different time. But I always had this image in my head of like wearing a suit and being a proper businessman. I didn't know what I wanted to do necessarily, but just I had the image in my head. I've obviously gotten away from that. That's not really what I like to do now. It was just more the idea of business. So I don't know if I ever had a specific thing I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to work for myself and wanted to be a businessman, whatever that entailed. So I guess you could say I'm still fulfilling that by being in business for myself. I am self-employed with the real estate appraisal, and then obviously getting into the skull carving, I'd be self-employed that way as well. Mike Chapman said, how old were you when you carved your first skull? That was 3 years ago, so I would have been 29, 28, 29, something like that. Not the first time I've carved bone. I was a teenager when I actually carved bones and antlers and stuff like that. And then even further before that, I always carved just wood, stuff like that. My grandfather taught me how to whittle, and then I did a carving class, I think when I was 12. So I've always just loved carving stuff. Always loved, skulls and stuff like that. We'd find skulls at my grandfather's farm all the time, like groundhogs and raccoons, obviously. And, then growing up, stuff like that. So, okay, then a couple of you kind of asked the same question. So C asked, what inspires you? And then Howard said, I would like to know who or what inspired you to start carving skulls. And then Anne from Norway said, where do you look for inspiration / what inspires you? And then No Breaks said, how did you get into all of this? So kind of two questions. How did I get into it? How did I start carving skulls? And then what inspires me? I got into it by my wife, believe it or not. She was the one who recommended. She saw one of those skulls carved over in Indonesia, and she was like, hey, you should try this, because this was kind of at a period where I was trying a bunch of other stuff, kind of ideas in order to get out of appraising. And so I was kind of exploring stuff, and she's like, hey, you should do this. And so I did. So working on that. So that's literally how I got into carving skulls. Like I said before, I was already carving, I was already interested in skulls, so it was just a matter of bringing those things together. And then what inspires me? That's a tough question. I get inspiration from everywhere. I'm not very artistic in the sense I think most people view artist. I think I am good at being creative, but the execution of my ideas doesn't necessarily all pan out, like I had in mind. Yeah, just, I'll see stuff and I'll be like, hey, I wonder if I can apply that to a skull. A little idea out of my hat, or out of the bag, I guess, early. One of my things I want to do is a Lego skull. Just build a skull out of Legos and then mount some antlers on it. It's stuff like that where, I'm just thinking of ideas like, okay, I've mounted antlers on a bowling pin, I've mounted antlers on, a block of wood. So it's like, what other kind of creative stuff could I come up with that would be really cool. So I just kind of go down rabbit trails as far as inspiration. You know, I'll pull off stuff I've already done and then say, okay, how can I improve that? Or, you know, how can I make this unique? And then I just kind of go from there. Hopefully that's a good enough answer for that question. Okay, and then last one, 2 questions, again, kind of similar. Blue Mountain Skulls said, what is your favorite skull to carve and why? And then Dan T said, what is the most unique skull type that you have or would like to carve? Probably the best skull I like to carve is deer skulls. It's just something I'm very familiar with. I like the layout of the skull. It's a challenge, so I like the challenge. You know, there's thin areas on the skull. It's not necessarily a nice blank slate, so there's a lot to work around. So I do like that. So probably deer skulls. It's probably the best I like to work on. And then the most unique skull, I would like to carve an alligator snapping turtle skull. That would be like a dream skull for me to carve on. So yeah. Okay, and then one last question, which I am going to have my wife answer because she would be the one to actually give the best answer for this question. Okay guys, so this is my lovely wife Lorena.
Hey.
And
Hey.
Jovi and Lincoln. And then I've got one back here that is sleeping. That's Amelia. So, alright. Raph Franco has a question for you specifically. He says, has your wife tried her hand at carving or any sort, and what does she, okay, I think he meant to say, and how does she feel about it?
I have not tried my hand at carving, which is surprising to me because I initially, even before Hunter started carving skulls, suggested to him that I would like to carve an animal skull to hang my jewelry off of, and I feel like that's how this whole thing got rolling. But I think one day I will. I'll try it, and I think skull carving is really cool. I like the look, I like the vibe, and yeah.
So there you are, you heard it from herself. Okay everyone, I cannot thank you enough for spending time with me here in my carving shed, carving skulls. So what I'm gonna do is do a giveaway. I am going to be giving away the deer skull war mask that I made. I did I think 4 different videos on making the mask. A lot of time put into it, but I appreciate you that much. I'm going to give that away to one lucky winner in the US. And then for all my international followers, since I can't really send a deer skull overseas, I have a replica platypus skull that I'm going to be giving away to my international folks. So see the description of this video, see the comments, I'll have it posted there as well. So you can enter that giveaway, again, as just a thank you. So yeah, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you all's following me and my work. And you guys are the best. Thanks again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Monday. Thanks guys.